3, 5.
Make some noise!
Welcome back to Making Noise, everybody. How are you doing? My name's Todd Johnson, and with me, finally back. Guess who's back? Mr. Jay Connor.
What's up, y'all?
How you doing, man?
I'm good, dude. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So on the mini episodes, I was telling people of a lot of the Good Samaritan work that you were doing.
Yes, all the volunteer work.
The volunteer work, how you were in Japan, how you were training in the Himalayas as well with saxophone masters.
Yeah.
None of that was real.
Yeah, it wasn't. The elephant part was real. I actually rode some. No, not really. None of it was real, Todd. It was all a farce.
We took some time off because you had a very big month. I had a big month, but it was nowhere near as big as your month.
Todd had a big month. It was all about Todd.
Well,
Usually is.
Dude, I'm conceited. So, but no, this is super cool. This is super cool. Tell everybody what happened.
I got engaged.
Yay! Oh fuck! Yeah! Woo! Woo! All right! Woo! Yeah! Fucking right. I've been holding on to these since fucking November 2019.
We had some party poppers.
Been holding on to them party poppers. Man, it's fantastic, dude.
Yeah, so the last month has been a lot of wedding prep.
Yeah.
We found a venue and found a date, which was a little harder than you would think. Everybody's getting married all of a sudden. It was like we had a year where nobody did anything. And now all the venues are like, what's a booking?
It's like, it's weird. It's like something happened around March of 2020 where it slowed down public gatherings.
Yes.
But dude, seriously.
Wait a minute. It's not still 2020?
We've kept Jay locked in a back room for a year and a half.
Oh, man.
Dude, seriously, in all sincerity, congratulations.
Thank you.
She's awesome. You're awesome. Y'all are awesome together.
Love you, Andrea.
Yes, she is fantastic. Y'all are perfect together. I'm very happy for you.
Thank you.
I have one favor. Please let him keep doing the podcast. Please. Yep. No. She digs the podcast.
She's okay with it. The podcast was already here before we
She's
got
the only
engaged.
person. I think she's the only person who's like multiple times like sat on the couch, hung out, like been backstage.
That's true.
Quote unquote.
Yeah, behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes. Yeah. So she's awesome. You know what? I've got a great idea.
What's that?
We're gonna have her on the podcast at some point, and you're just not gonna know when she's just gonna come in.
That's gonna be awesome. I can't wait for that.
But yeah, man, that's awesome. So I'm glad that we took some time for that.
Hey, I'm looking for a wedding band. You know anybody that plays anything?
Man, I tell you what, if do you know what date it is?
Yes.
I'm gonna be busy. I'm gonna be busy. I can't make it.
Can't make it.
Can't play it. I probably could be invited. Is it an open? Is it an open bar?
Maybe.
I can't make a commitment on it. Maybe. So
it's at least worth the drive. It's pretty. The venue's pretty. So
yeah, no, dude. I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to it. The problem is I know way too many band people. I think that's gonna be your problem.
I've got 1/3 of it booked in my head.
Okay. Oh, you're building like the perfect band.
Oh yeah, I've got a plan. There's a plan.
Is this the part where like she's like, look, just let me do the real important stuff and you can handle the band?
Just handle the band. It's okay. Just handle the band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, man, I'm excited, and I'm excited we're back because we've got today on the show we've got Jenna Gribble, and we're gonna talk to her about all things Charlotte and stuff. But we've got a whole bunch of other guests and stuff that we've already recorded. We've worked on a lot of other cool stuff, so I'm happy to be back for the summer. Ain't it good? Oh man, we should do one of these episodes by a pool.
The boys are back.
The boys are back. Guess who's back and down again? All right. So we're going to go ahead and get our guest on the show today. Very excited to talk to her. She is an influencer here in Charlotte as well as a professional event promoter. She does everything around town, knows everybody, knows the history of this place. She's so cool to talk to. I'm really looking forward to talking to her. Here's our guest today, Jenna Gribble.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Here, cheers.
Cheers all around.
Can we?
So what's the cacao thing again?
Tell me.
So check it out. So it's a bar, right? And it's just like a dude or somebody sitting at the end of the bars and just like, cacao! and then like a White Claw just flies out of nowhere, and hits him in the hand, and like feathers, whoosh, and then they start drinking White
Yeah,
Claw.
about White
you know?
Claws. That's so funny.
It's dumb, is what it is.
but it's so dumb, it's good.
Exactly.
I think we're
That's
going to lose Jay to an
why it
advertising
works.
agency.
Probably not. It hasn't happened yet.
You should.
Second wind.
What do you do when you're not doing the podcast?
I work in sales,
What kind of sales?
cable.
Cable. Okay, interesting.
He also is the world's okayest saxophone player.
Yeah,
Are you in a band?
a couple.
Yeah.
So we play together, and I'm surprised that he's upright actually today because he what was it? You were with
played-
Randy in Greenville.
Yeah, I played back-to-back nights with Randy Paul and the Revelry.
I know. Yeah, I know who that is.
Yeah. So I've known Randy for a long time. He's been on the podcast.
Nice.
I played with him probably about 7 years now,
Okay.
off and on. I guess going back to 2013 at this point. It's almost 8.
Where were you guys at again in Greenville?
Connolly's, the world famous Connolly's,
In Greenville, South Carolina?
South Carolina. Yeah.
You have to ask north or south.
Oh no, I know.
No, not if I'm back here for a podcast at 1. You don't,
I
because that 5-hour drive wouldn't have worked.
No, that would have not worked. I know I had to put a curfew on last night. It was one of my best friend's birthdays, and we both
yeah?
I had to work yesterday, and so I was like, all right, we're going to go for 1 hour. And we got there, and of course it was like, you can't leave. And I'm like,
Right.
no, I have to adult tomorrow. So
Wow, did you?
I did. I left at 11 o'clock. Well, everybody thought the fight was
How?
last night.
Oh right, okay.
So we were going to go watch the fight, and then somebody was like, no, the fight's not till Sunday night. We're like, wait, why would the fight be on Sunday night? And so then all of a sudden we're like, oh, it is. So I was like, oh, good. We don't have to stay out for the fight. We can
Right.
go.
Now you've got a good reason.
Because we had to get good sleep so that we could do this podcast and stay up tonight for the fight. So,
Yeah.
Because those things start at 8 o'clock, but then
Right.
the actual fight is not till like 12:47. And I'm
Right.
like, oh my God, I got to work tomorrow. Like,
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, absolutely. Well, that's where did you go for a one? How did you get through a 1 hour birthday?
So I went
I
to
don't
the
think I
birthday
could control
party. It
myself.
started at 2 o'clock and I was working. And so it was an all day thing, but these people will party like they are freshmen in college. So
Right.
I was like, okay, we're going to go for 1 hour because I've got too much going on. So
Right.
I literally went, I said, we're going to have 2 drinks and leave. And we did.
Do you ever, when you have like multiple parties on a Saturday or something like that, or like you get invited to one or two things, do you ever like go, okay,
First world problems,
this
right?
this is such first world. Oh, absolutely. This
Todd's so popular.
no.
Tell us
Todd, are you
how
asking me
popular
how to
you are,
choose?
Todd.
So when you're invited to Diddy's white party and you're like, oh, I can't stay there that long, but do you ever go like, okay, I've gotten invited to 2 or 3 things that are happening today. I want, and I have bad FOMO. I need to be at all of them,
Right.
or make an appearance of some sort. Do you do the like, okay, these people are gonna get crazy and do this all day. These people are only gonna do this for like 2 or 3 hours. And like, do you like socially plan?
Yes, I plan it out with my Uber drivers, like how much I'm going to drink at each party because I'm getting older. I can't really hang like I used to. So I have to really like space it out and get my bottled water in between. But yeah, I do.
38. That's
Yeah.
when it happened for me.
38.
That was when I said, man, hangovers suck.
Yeah, they're the worst. They're the worst.
They are-
CBD, do
they are
CBD.
bad.
I drink so much CBD, like it helps with my hangovers so much.
I need to start. I need to get back on a little bit more of it. Now that shows are picking back up, I'm like the past 3 or 4 weeks I've been like it's been my schedule's has been crazy, so I need to get.
I know you're
on a
playing
better-
like everywhere. We would have come to see you last night, but it's crazy how people are out. When I drove by Thomas Street Tavern last night,
Oh yeah.
there were like at least, I'm not even exaggerating, 50 people in line at the front door to get in at
Yeah.
11 p.m.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is going on at Thomas Street?
It's
like,
crazy.
But
It's
people are
crazy.
out. But it's good. I'm
it's
excited.
good. It's good. I mean, it's people have a summer and a half bottled up, ready to go and get out there. So
yeah.
Well, I think this weekend, too, was like the first time Visual Light and Neighborhood Theater.
Neighborhood Theater was open. I
have
saw
been
that.
Open.
And I think Evening Muse was open. I know Brandon,
they were.
my buddy,
They were.
did a thing.
I walked by there last night. Said hey to them real quick. I was wanted to go in, but it was that same thing of like I just played a show, went to Beagles and got some food, and I ate at Oh My Soul, and then they had closed, and then I went to Beagles and I was like, I'm gonna get more food because
Because they're
be
both so good.
right. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be a fatty and eat all my favorite things all along Noda. And anyway, went there, but it was just so cool to see, places being packed, people being as responsible as they can while they're drinking. You know, it's cool to see.
You have
like,
to say that
open back
now.
up.
They're being responsible.
Yeah, being as responsible as possible. There was a kid vomiting, but he made sure not to do it.
He didn't get it on anybody.
He didn't get it on anybody. I was like,
wow.
man, that guy's being really responsible right
Very
now.
thoughtful.
Yeah, he's throwing up in the street, not on somebody's shoes. He was really thoughtful
yeah,
about it.
Yeah, yeah. Did he put his mask back on?
He did right after. Well, he used it to wipe it off and then flipped it around. So
Maybe he's just vaccinated.
yeah, maybe yeah.
Yes, hello has been replaced with I'm vaccinated. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
hi, nice to see you.
This is
Like,
true. And then you have to have the 3-minute awkward conversation of like, oh, did you get this one or that
Yeah.
one? How'd you feel? Well, for a day I was tired.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, but no,
The second one about knocked me out. Like,
Yeah,
I was almost died on the second one. I'm like, every story is basically.
every story. Yeah, we have to get that out of the way. So we just kind of, you know. But it's good. I mean, it's good. We should. We're just in that. We're still in that awkward, like,
Very awkward.
growing.
It's like
we're in the
mask,
fourth
no
quarter.
mask. Am I gonna get yelled at and embarrassed when I walk in somewhere? I don't know.
I was so strict with myself with the masks, and I'll be honest with you, come winter, I might even go back to wearing one, and I'll tell you
Dude,
why.
Yeah.
I didn't have a cold.
Yeah.
Nope.
I
Like,
didn't get sick at all this year.
And usually I get a cold, and I spend about 2 weeks feeling like crap. And if wearing a mask walking into a restaurant is what's going to keep me from
Yeah.
having that happen again, guess what, guys?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm putting on a mask.
Fucking wearing
I
that
just
mask, a bitch.
Felt gangster. I felt like I was like a robber. Like,
True.
you know, like I'd wear my bandanas up to here and
Oh,
like
yeah.
walk in. Like that's
felt-
not frowned upon at the bank or anymore
Yeah,
or
I know.
anything. I'm like, is this cool? Like, do they think I'm gonna rob the place?
You need
like,
to take your hoodie off, ma'am. Take your hoodie off.
Take the hoodie and glasses off.
walking and looking like the Unabomber.
Right.
I'm just here to deposit some
Yeah.
money.
It's just a withdrawal.
Talking about weird stuff at banks, I saw a cop have to call EMS this week because some like 60-year-old guy was just standing in the empty trash can outside of a bank. Like up to here, like he got into the trash can somehow.
Oh, I was trying to figure out what the EMS was going to do that the cop couldn't do. So he got stuck.
They showed up with a ladder. I'm serious.
What part of town were you in?
It wasn't in Charlotte.
Okay.
It was in the country, which makes it even less likely. I'll be honest with you. It was out in Lincolnton, and
Good old Lincolnton.
and
What
and,
else?
and like the guy's
I may
wife
wanna go
was
out in
standing by
Lincolnton.
our car like this, like he's done it again, boys.
Was the cop like Barney Fife,
I-
or was he like a legit?
I don't know. I just watched it from a distance because I was like, I don't want to get into that. Like I didn't want
But
to
you
get
had
close.
to see what
But you
happened.
gotta
But I was like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
Why is this there? Oh, there's a guy over there. Oh, wait a minute. He can't.
Stuck in a trash.
Did they
can.
get him out?
Yeah,
Did they cut him out with like the jaws of life?
You know, he literally climbed over on the ladder and they helped him down. He just could not
my
get. I don't know how he lifted himself into there. I guess he used
Oh, he
the
just couldn't lift
car.
himself out.
He just couldn't get out.
I'm gonna just say alcohol is a hell of a thing.
I don't know. I mean,
think
it
it
was
was-
probably more like pills. Let's be honest.
Right.
And, you know, it's
We out in the country. We know.
yeah,
We know what it is.
a combination of the two. Is opioid crisis.
Yes,
you know what I
it
mean?
is. It is. I was just watching something on the news about that today. God, it's out in Lincolnton, out there when you get outside of the city.
Man, if you get outside of the wagon wheel,
It's good
45,
people watching though. It's
It
real
is.
good people watching.
I mean, I love it, and I'm so I'm not a native Charlotte person, so it is one
it's
of those
called
things where
Charlottean. Charlottean.
Yeah, I was about to say thank you
Get
for
that shit
correcting
right.
me.
They get mad.
We do.
sh-
We're
oh,
real
sh-
touchy.
oh, she-
We're real touchy about it.
She knows. If anyone knows, Jenna, it's you.
No.
But it is funny. It's like now that I've been here, and I used to play around a lot more. Now that I just mainly play in Charlotte, just because it's so easy to find places to play. It's like the second I play, like 30 minutes outside of 45. It's like, what other country did I step into? And I feel bad for saying that or thinking that, but I'm so used to the neighborhoods and the feel and all that stuff, and I love playing
You
outside.
stepped into North Carolina, Todd.
I know, it's weird.
Welcome to the Carolinas.
It's super weird how Charlotte almost is now, in like the last couple of years, feels like it's different entity than, because it really did feel like North Carolina. And it
Yeah.
still does.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. It's Charlotte definitely has kind of created its own identity.
Oh, yeah. My favorite used to be going out to Coyote Joe's, like in high school,
Oh,
college. I'm
yeah.
like, where do these people work, like Monday through Friday? Or like, what is their day job?
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's
Shelby.
some
They work in
good.
Shelby.
That's some good people
Oh,
watching.
yeah.
Yeah.
God, it's
They're in
been
the
a while
gas
since I've been
house,
there.
Belmont. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I love it. I'm like, what does that person do for a living?
Yeah.
Like, do I want to know? Like,
Well, you kind of do, but you don't want to ask.
I know. Oh no.
You know,
but
you
I
don't
would
want
just
them to
be
get
like,
into it.
Yeah, it's yeah, definitely good people watching. That's
Yeah. So you're like, what is it, sixth generation?
Yeah, I found that out a couple of years ago. I knew that like my family went way back, like to my great grandparents, because my great grandparents lived on East Boulevard.
Okay.
So and then my grandparents lived right on like near Freedom Park,
Okay.
which is where I grew up in that area. And so I started just researching it. I knew my grandfather had like 8 sisters, so it was kind of hard because they all married
wow.
and had different last names. So.
Right.
Anyway, thank God my last name is not Smith. Like people that want to do their like genealogy, like all the men in my family, they were named like James or Thomas. So, but thankfully with my last name being Gribble, so I've tracked it down to like when it's the oldest frame structured church or frame structure. It's out of Providence Road. And I found I have to count it on my hand, my great grandfather and grandmother.
Oh, wow.
And I actually found her like death certificate and they announced it in the new, like, so, and we were able to trace it back. So I found that was probably about 5 years ago.
Wow, that's awesome.
So,
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny because I'm like, we've driven by this a million times. And like those headstones are so old, you can barely, but sure enough, I took my dad with me and he was like, you're never going to find this. And so we laid money on it. And I'm like, I'm going to find it. Now that you've said I can't find it,
Right.
I'm going to find it. So we went and found it. And sure enough, they're right there.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So for you, do you think that that's part of your like, I know everybody, because every time I've met you, it's always been a situation where like I've met you very briefly, like 10 times before we actually like talked.
Because you're always playing. We always come to see you. Well, it's usually to come see you play. 'Cause
True,
I was
yeah.
trying to think of how, did I meet you
Well,
up at the
so-
studio with Brandon Sides? Is that the first time I met you,
I think that I met you extremely briefly, or in passing or something, at a show, and I can't remember who it was playing.
Yeah.
But the first time that we ever talked was there.
Yeah.
And hung up for the Christmas party.
The Christmas
thing.
party, yeah.
And then from there it would be at other shows, and then when you came out, to shows, or we'd go see like Swim in the Wild or something.
Yeah.
And see you there and stuff. So it was always kind of that thing, but it like
Hey.
yeah.
See ya.
I was like, oh, hey, how are you doing? Yeah. Like at first I was, like when people are like, so what does this person do? Like I followed you on Instagram. I was like, oh, okay. I think this is what they do. Or is there oh, she's a radio host. Oh no, wait, she works with vodka, or she does like, I don't know what she,
It's like the number one question I get asked is like, so what exactly do you do for a living? And I'm
Right.
like, whatever it takes. Like I work like 50 million jobs.
right.
So.
It's like, do you have a PowerPoint presentation that you take around with you everywhere just to be like,
no,
so
because
this
I
is
suck
what
at PowerPoint.
You have a portfolio like in a binder. Here are my
I'm just here. Look at
awards.
my social media. Here's my social media that tells you what
Right.
I do.
But you did a lot of blogging and stuff.
Yeah,
for a
I
while.
used to blog. I got into the blogging. So back during the MySpace era, I had this woman approach me and she was like, you live a really interesting life. Like I've been following you on MySpace. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Like kind of, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
not creepy, but it's kind of because you're putting it out there.
Well,
but
especially like at that time.
Yeah,
To have
this is
somebody
like-
reach out to you that's
yeah.
a total stranger on the internet.
Yeah, this is like during like the LimeWire, like downloading Napster kind of era. So I was like, and so she was like, I have this magazine. I would love for you to come and write for me about, you go to a lot of concerts. This is back before, I'm really dating myself, but this is back when like Noda, there was Fat City out there. They had the gallery crawl. You would drive out there. There
Right.
was nothing out there. Like, I don't want to say it was a dirt road, but there was a lot of dirt on the road. Like there were
Right.
none of those.
Like in that time, like Noda was literally just an arts district.
Yeah. So you would go out to Fat City, and Fat City was this hole in the wall bar that it's right across from where God, I can't even think of what it's called right now, but it's right where like what's the Mexican place? The taco place?
Sabor.
Yeah, so it's like right down from there. And so now it's like a 2-story building, but it was a
Right.
bar, and they would always have like
Oh, like where Cabo is?
yeah, it's right
Okay.
across from Cabo. And so in the back,
Oh,
they had a
okay.
huge gravel, like sloped pit. And they
Yes.
would always have garbage cans with fires. And you would go out there and see like bluegrass bands from Asheville, like, or Statesville. Like I used to go see a band called the Blue Rags all the time.
I love the blue rags.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
Sweet.
don't get them confused with the blue dogs. There's the
Nope.
blue dogs,
No,
but the
Blue
blue
Dogs, no,
rags.
we've had Dan Hood on here before. We talked about that one.
Yeah, so those guys were like rockabilly, like, and
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff. And so like I would like from where I lived in Charlotte, so I lived near South Park. To drive out there, I remember one time we were driving out there in a Jeep, and a guy had been shot in the road, like right around where Amelie's was. Like, it's not a good part. It was not a
Right,
good part
right,
of town.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So like we
That's
would go
why
out
it was
there.
the Arts District.
Yeah, it was Arts District
Because it was
So-
cheap. It was the only place that
Exactly.
Yeah, so
Was being the optimum word.
Yeah, it was. It is. Oh,
So Scoop Charlotte, that they're still around. I wrote for her for a couple of years. Like it would be like, where do you go to find a man in Charlotte? You know, what breweries do you hang out at? And I'm
Right.
like, I'm single. Like I don't know. I just like to drink beer. But so I would write articles, or we would come up with things, and I think I ended up covering. Like I got to interview Moon Taxi. They came and did like the PGA tour here, and I'm super involved in like sports and stuff. So I wrote for her for a couple of years, and then this was like when bloggers came on the scene. And so like it's like I didn't really know what a blogger was, and they're like, well, you're always doing stuff and you're writing, you should be a blogger. And I'm like, okay, whatever, like, you know, just you got to put it out
Yeah.
there. And so I did that for a little while, and then her column kind of went more towards like fashion and makeup and like working out and like being healthy. And not to say that I'm not all of those, but my genre was more like sports. This was right when I was getting involved with the Roaring Riot and the Panthers.
Right,
I was
right.
traveling around with those guys, and I was still working for Miller Lite. I worked for Miller
Right.
Lite for like 12 years for Rusty Wallace. I was a Miller girl for
Oh,
NASCAR.
cool.
And so I was still in that genre. And so I was like, I want to write about football. And I want to
Right.
write about, you know, this is like when the Bobcats were still around and we were getting ready to change
Right.
to the Hornets. And I was all
Figuring
into that.
out.
and
What was that? The Bring Back the Buzz or Buzz
yeah,
City? What was the movement
yeah,
for that?
yeah. So yeah, I was into that, and I'm really, you know, I worked with NASCAR. I've been involved with NASCAR since I was 10 years old. My mom was the event coordinator for Coca-Cola in the motorsports division.
Oh, okay.
So that's how I kind of got into that. So it was just like I wanted to kind of do my own thing. So I kind of went to her and I was like, I don't want to step on any toes, but I kind of want to go out on my own and just
Right.
kind of do my own thing because I don't give a shit about pocketbooks and makeup. So
Well, you kind of already like developed your own voice.
yeah.
So, you know,
So-
at that point.
Yeah, so I started doing it, and it would be like, oh, that's that blogger girl, you know, and it's like, I kind of hated that thing that came along with it. Like, I'm like, I'm
Right.
just a girl that likes to drink and go to see bands, you know,
Right.
like, or I like to go to football games. And so I still do it. And then it kind of turned into like everybody in Charlotte is a transplant, like,
Yes.
except if you are from here, it's nothing. Like, everybody I know is from here. But there are tons of transplants. So they would all be like, well, ask Jenna. She'll know, like, you know, who does your hair? Or where do you go to get an oil change where you're not going to get screwed? Or
Right.
where do you go to do this? So it kind of turned into everybody was like saying, screw corporate America. I'm going to follow my dream. I'm going to go into business for myself. I've always wanted to work on old cars. I'm going to open my own, you know, automotive shop or whatever. So they would say, hey, well, tell your friends about it. I'll give you a free oil change. So it turned into kind of that.
Yeah.
So I started promoting small business, and a lot of it started off doing it on trades, and then slowly like the money started coming in and kind of being easy like that.
Right.
That's what I'm still doing.
That's awesome.
So-
I think Charlotte is you said something that made me kind of think of something. I kind of have a theory of why we have so many breweries is because it's like there's people coming into corporate America, you know, and they're just starting the first job and they're getting up, you know, and they're starting to make good money.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, this is like a brain suck. This is horrible. I
Yeah.
don't like working at the bank. I don't, you know, and they go,
It's so confined, like you're just so in the
right.
structure.
You know, and they're like, okay, well, I know how to run a business because I'm on the other end of this and I could see this. What was the one thing I did in college that I enjoyed?
Right.
Drinking.
Drinking.
You know,
Let me brew some beers. Yeah. So.
you know, so I think it's my very dumb, stupid theory of why we have such a big and really good like, brewery scene.
We do.
But
I'm
it's-
noticing your hat. That's one of my favorite breweries in Asheville. Yeah, we go there often.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah, I like them a lot.
It's crazy to ever think like when I first moved here to be like we would have a scene that competes with Asheville.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh no, like you can easily debate. There's, you know, and I mean, I love going to Asheville. I love Asheville breweries. I'm not saying one or the other, but it's just like the fact that like Charlotte is known for now almost in such a short amount of time of not just, I always hate the term when people are like, it's a banking city. I'm like, there's so much more cool shit.
Yeah. And I think so many people, like during the pandemic, like there's nobody in Uptown. Now that they know they can work from home, you can go into Uptown, downtown. I'm supposed to say downtown since I'm a native, but technically it is up, but whatever. I don't get in arguments about it. But there's nobody in the city at all. Like it's dead. So I'm like, I love to see people though chase their dreams. They're like,
absolutely,
go do it. Why are you working in this cubicle and miserable? Go do what you like want to do. If you have a passion for it, it'll fall into place and work out.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. Like with growing up here and everything and having your roots here, obviously Charlotte is vastly different. But what was it like growing up for you as a kid, and like your high school experience and all that stuff?
So my high school experience, so I grew up like what is now called Madison Park. It was not called that when I was a kid. So it's over off of like Park Road near Park Road Shopping Center.
Yeah, okay.
Grew up like on Selwyn. I went to Myers Park Traditional. I went to Selwyn. Then I went to AG. Went to Myers Park. Like my whole entire family went to Myers Park. My dad was like a big baseball player, football player.
Okay.
My sister was like an all-American softball player. Like I got there and I was like, I hate everybody here. And like, for some reason, I still don't even understand this, but everybody was into like the Dead. And this is when Fish first came along. So this is like early 90s.
All right. So that's an easy way to get to the Dead is Fish.
Exactly. So everybody was really all into that. And I was hanging out with guys that were a couple years older than me. And I went and saw my first Fish show.
Right.
And I went with these boys. They had a car. We're like, hey, we're going to go see Fish, this band Fish. This guy is, they're coming and they were trying to explain it to me. And I just was like, all right, whatever, it's a concert. We'll go. So I was down at Memorial Stadium, go to the Fish show, fell in love. Like, I think it was the year Trey's dad came and I just remember they sang, Won't You Come Home, Bill Bailey? And they did it real rockabilly and we're sitting in this little tiny, I don't know if you've ever been in there in Grady Cole. It's where they do the roller derby for the girls. So it's like a high school gymnasium.
I'm trying to think if I've actually, yes.
It's very small.
Yeah, I did. Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. So they played in there. I still have my ticket stub and I want to say it was like 91, 92.
Wow, what a hell of a place to see Fish.
So it was like a
awesome.
very, very small place. And so, of course, I fell in love with it. And I was like, oh, my God, this is awesome. And not thinking. And so then, I saw my first Dead show. I think I was in 5th grade. They played the Charlotte Coliseum. It's not here anymore. It was out on Tyvola.
The one on top, yeah.
So my mom worked at Coca-Cola. And I'm like, get me some tickets. And my dad's like, absolutely not. You're not going. You're like 11. And I'm like, well, listen, I'm sneaking out and I'll hitchhike to Tyvola if I have to. I'm going to this show.
So you went to your first Dead show when you were 11.
Mm-hmm. I was in 5th grade, so whatever that is, 10, 11.
Asked for the tickets.
I said to my mom, get me tickets, because she worked at Coke.
So how was the Dead on your radar at that age?
So basically, I had a 45 of Touch of Grey. I don't even know. I think I got it at like Repo Records or something for like $1. I don't even know how I got the record.
Sense.
So that was my first, and I want to say that the video had come out with the skeletons and everything,
and
stuff, I was like, what the hell? And my birthday's on Halloween, so I'm super into like skeleton, like that kind of vibe, like whatever, dead people, whatever, ghost. So I was like, what is this? Like, this is crazy. Like, I want to say it's like right around when like MTV came out, and like it was like ZZ Top with the legs.
With the legs and their whole video thing that they did.
So I was like, I'm going. And so it was a big argument between my parents because I'm the middle child and I'm the wild one. And so they're like, my dad's like, well, you're only going if your mother goes. So my mom like went to bat for me. We loaded up the station wagon with me and 2 of my girlfriends. And the rules were there's going to be a lot of drugs here. If you see anything, sure enough, we're standing there. It's my mom, me, 2 girlfriends. Guys are passing joints down, and my mom's just like, you say no thank you. No thank you. So I think she sat down at some point and took a nap. She was just like, I don't get this at all. Like, she did not get it. So, but she took me and we went, and
it's awesome.
But even, okay.
What did you?
But even okay. So I'm a big Dead fan, right?
I was about to say that side of the table just got way cooler than this side. When you're like, I'm into the Dead. I'm like, well, I'm out of this conversation, but I'll listen.
One of the bands I play in, we do a lot of Dead.
Which band?
It's called Harvest.
Okay.
Outside of the Kings Mountain area.
Like the Neil Young album?
Yeah, but more like.
What are you harvesting?
Exactly. Yeah.
Good vibes.
Dun dun dun.
Good vibes,
man. I mean, that band's always kind of been like it was started by a guy and some of his brothers back like a long time ago, and I mean it had existed for years before I even started playing with them.
So like many legacy North Carolina bands.
And I've been playing with them for like 12 years.
Okay.
We do. They do like a lot of Allman Brothers. And then just kind of whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
Lately, been doing like Bruce Hornsby.
Nice.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But even having listened to a 45, A Touch of Grey, which is a very, at the end of the day, commercial song, which is it's still a great song. It's hard as hell to play
for
and it sounds good.
the Dead. It's
Right. But then being in 5th grade and going to one of their shows, that show is going to be so much different than any recording probably that you had been exposed to.
Yeah. I just knew that it was like popular. Everybody was listening to it. And everybody in my school was like into the tie-dyes and the shirts with the dancing bears, and everybody was into that. And it was just like a whole vibe. Like my sister was 3 years older than me, and all the kids in her grade, same way.
Yeah.
And we just were really into, like, we had a jukebox in my house that always had music on it. My dad's really into music. So, but my dad's into rock and roll, like Chuck Berry, like Elvis, Creedence, that kind of stuff. And then here comes the Dead. My dad's like, nope. And I'm like, oh, well, if you say no, I'm definitely doing it.
So that makes it, that makes
it kind of was like this thing. But I just, I remember just hearing a lot of the albums and just really liking it. We used to go to these things at Myers Park Presbyterian Church. It was called Lock-In. And on Friday nights, your parents would drop you off like in 4th, 5th grade. Yeah. And there would be these two guys playing music, and they were at Myers Park, and they were like 4 or 5 years older than us. And it was a guy named Logan Moon and Willie Halls. And they would jam, and they would always play that kind of music. And so it was just kind of always around me.
Right.
So not because of my parents, but mostly because of the kids that I went to school with.
Gotcha.
So
well, that's always kind of the thing too. It's like the Alice Cooper quote. It was like, if we can make the parents hate it, the kids are gonna love it.
I didn't realize at the time that I was doing it, but I just like to see that vein in my dad's neck get really big, and like, I'm pissing him off. This is awesome.
Well, I was gonna ask, like, what was the music your parents listened to? So he was definitely like early rock.
Oh yeah, my dad is like Rain Man when it comes to music. Like the record will drop on the jukebox and he'll be like, what's the flip side of that? Like that was his like education for us. Like same thing with sports. Like we would watch a baseball game, somebody's on first. He's like, okay, it's a 2-1 count. What are you doing?
Cool.
Like always like thinking ahead. But
we
always had music. We were always listening to beach music, the Coasters, like the Tams, that kind of stuff. And then, but we always listened to like Chuck Berry in the house and Elvis. My dad was a huge Elvis fan. My mom went and saw Elvis when she was pregnant with me. I think she was about 4 months pregnant. He played the Coliseum on Independence.
Right.
So,
cool.
I was there, but like not technically, but I don't like to say
there.
I saw Elvis because then that makes me sound really old, but I'm like, I was kind of there. So
you got the vibes.
So yeah, so I ended up falling in love with the Dead, and my high school, I went into school. I'd been with those people since like 3rd grade, and it just was not, I just remember looking at my parents and just being like, I'm really unhappy. I hate it here. Like, I don't use the word hate a lot. And I was like, I'm so miserable. And I knew this guy that was like, he was the guy that took me to see Fish. And he was like, I'm going to hit the road. Do you want to come? And I'm like, yeah. But at the time I was 15.
Right.
So my parents were actually going through a divorce. So I sat him down and I was like, listen, like I'm really close with my parents, super close. So I was just like, I'm miserable here and I'm going to do this whether you like it or not. But I at least want to tell you because I don't want you to worry about it.
You didn't want to run away with it. Yeah.
And like looking back in hindsight now at the age of 43, I'm like, oh my God, I would have beat my ass. No. And my dad's like going, this is your daughter. Like she's you, know, right, like so you're going to handle this. And I'm
they're
like,
still in the middle of the divorce, so they don't know how to even handle.
And I'm like, I'm leaving. Like, I love you guys both. And like, and I was like, I just don't want to be here anymore. Like, I'm going to go. So I went, I said, they were like, well, if you're going to do this, like, you're going to be smart about it. Like, I don't really know what that means, but they didn't give me a dime. I think I left with about $100 in my pocket. I had gone over to a place on Central Avenue where you could go. It's where they sent girls that got pregnant in high school. But I went over there and I was like, I want to test out of high school English. So if I don't know how long I'm going to be gone, but I want to test out because technically if you test through high school English, you're to the next grade.
Right.
So I went and did that. And I was like, I'm leaving. See ya. So I left and got in the car, and I was in a 69 Bronco, 3 on the tree, old school. We made it to about Sunset Road before the car overheated, and I slept at a truck stop the first night.
Right. So is this just you and the other guy?
Just
that was gonna
me and this guy.
Okay.
Yeah. So, that was my first night. And so he said, okay, this is our plan. This is before MapQuest. This is before like Waze. We had a map. We talked about which way we wanted to go. And I said, the only place I really, 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 really want to go is Graceland. And he was like, okay. we went to Graceland the first night, and it was the first time I ever saw like prostitutes and transvestites and all that kind of stuff. And I was horrified. I was like, Elvis would be so upset. So yeah, that was my first night of running away from home. And yeah, so I was on the road for a little while. It was always like one of those, I was like one of those people in the parking lot, like, I need a miracle. Like, I need a ticket. Like what? Like, we're going to make grilled cheese to get tickets. And so
exactly.
Did that.
So how long were you on the road following the dead?
I was probably on the road, I want to say about 8 months.
Okay.
So when I came back, it was the next school year, and my parents had moved to Carmel Road, right across from Country Day.
Okay.
And so that corner right there, Fairview and Carmel, was zoned for East Meck. So I was going to East Mecklenburg. Did not know one person at East, and I was like, this is going to be crazy.
Okay, so I just got to go back for a second, because it's like, it's a great story. I enjoy every bit of that, and I'm trying to hold on to it. But I think we were then like, and then I followed the dead for 8 months. So then I went to another, like, what fucking crazy cool or weird, or did like you're at Graceland, like you said, you go there the first night, you see people that you've never seen outside before. What was it like following the dead? I mean, and this is gonna, let me ask you this too, like, were you okay as a 15, like, through the experience?
Yeah, I got out there, and like, I remember we got to Kansas, and I was like, I want to learn how to drive this car. And so Kansas is completely flat. I remember we stopped in Iola, Kansas, and he was like, all right, well, you're going to learn how to pump gas first. So we stopped, and it was an old silver gas cap on the outside of the Bronco.
Right.
So I went to pump the gas, and he was like, you're going to go in and pay. Like, he was teaching me about cars and stuff, and like how to work on it and carburetors and that kind of crap. And you know, I didn't know how to drive stick. I mean, my dad used to race cars back at a place called Shuffletown.
You're 15, you didn't know how to drive
I
at
don't know how
all.
to drive. But I had been like, my dad used to race. He had a 62 Bel Air Fastback that he used to race at Shuffletown.
Oh, okay.
Drag racing.
Yeah. So my dad was into cars and stuff, but I didn't know how to drive, but I knew, you know, so I was like, I want to learn how to drive this car. So I learned how to drive 3 on the tree stick through Iola, Kansas in the middle of nowhere. I was so little, like I could barely reach the pedals. This car is like old as hell. We went to, one of our first stops was in Snow College in Ephraim, Utah. The guy, his sister went to school there. They're Mormon. And so we got out there, and it was just like, it's so different than Charlotte.
Right.
It's brown and orange and dry, and there's no green trees like Queens Road. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I was at a Mormon school. I'm not Mormon.
Right.
So it was like, and at the time he like was not practicing or anything. So it was just, we had a situation where we were driving through Utah, like I think it's called Spanish Fork, American Fork area in Utah. And the only thing that I had brought with me besides like clothes was a huge crate of records that were like my favorite thing, because we wanted to have music with us wherever we got. And we had a portable record player. So we're like driving through the middle of the mountains, and all of a sudden, I guess either he didn't have enough brake fluid in the car, but the brakes went out, and we ended up going down like the side of a mountain. And there's still snow. This is like August of that year. So there was like snow like in some places, like August, September. There was snow in some places. Anyway, the car broke down, and we're like 22 miles from the next town. So this is no cell phones, no nothing. So he's like, all right, you stay at the car. I'm going to go hike into town. Like, so here I am waiting on this
Protecting
guy.
the car just in case.
Yeah, like in the middle of
you're
nowhere.
you're
I'm
gonna be
like,
able to handle
oh my
that
God.
situation.
Like I just remember one time, like, did I really screw up? Do I need to go? I want to go home. Like, So yeah, just one of the crazier things that happened to me is the reason I came home is, so we were in Pocatello, Idaho, and we decided the guys wanted to go canoeing. So I'm like, okay, we'll go canoeing. So it's Mormon town. Nobody works on Sunday there.
Right.
So we go and we get on this river, and like a dumbass 15-year-old, I did not put a life jacket on. And for some reason, it was one of the days where they let the dam out. So the water was like a class 3, maybe class 4 in some places. So long story short, we had a rock, the canoe buckled, I fell out. I probably weighed 100 pounds, maybe. But the boys that I was with were older, taller. I fell out and went downstream and cracked both my right kneecap and shin, and broke like my kneecap on my left leg.
Oh, wow.
Middle of nowhere, had to be rescued out. Like it was the scariest thing in the world, because they could stand up in the water and I couldn't. I wasn't strong enough, and it was just too rough. So that's probably one of the crazier things that happened. So
Yeah.
called my mom from the hospital and said, please send me a ticket. I want to come home.
Right.
Like,
I've done my rebellious thing.
yeah. I was like,
it was
I'm
good.
ready. She's like, I've been waiting on the phone call.
Right.
She's like, I can't believe you lasted this long. And I was just like, I'm
Wow.
ready to come home. And it was so funny because I wanted to get as far away from Charlotte as I could. And now, like, I can't imagine not being in Charlotte.
Where was your first Dead show stop? Since you were going out to see them.
So we were down in Georgia. We spent some time in Georgia. We went to, I never got to see him. I wanted to go to Red Rocks. I've never been to Red Rocks. It's on my bucket list.
I've
but-
never been either. That's on the list of places I want to go see a good band.
We
Absolutely.
we saw some shows out in Colorado and Denver, and but probably like my favorite show was the 3-day Dead show that was here at the Coliseum. It was for 3 days. It was everybody in Charlotte was there.
Oh, wow.
And it
Oh,
was
yeah.
just definitely was one of those shows that you saw. Like at that time I'd seen NXS, and I think REM came and played here. I'd seen the Beach Boys. None of them made me feel like the way that when I saw
Hey, Todd has an interesting connection to REM.
to REM. You and Michael Stipe. What?
No, he just
What's your connection?
no,
Do
it's
tell.
it's not really. It's not even really. It's like a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of thing. No, it's I worked at a studio with the producer who worked with them on Murmurs.
Because they were down in
Well, they did it at Reflections in Charlotte.
Yeah.
And it was produced by Don Dixon and Mitch Easter. And then
Oh, that guy. What's his name?
Mitch Easter.
Oh, okay.
There was an episode we did that I don't think's out yet, but it's coming out. But someone else had a similar. I was like, oh, Mitch Easter, and then it just turned into a thing where Jay was like, oh, you're gonna keep name dropping the one place you interned at for 3 months.
Name dropping is the best though. Like especially like my only connection that I ever had. So I obviously love them, and I found out. Well, did you see the other night Phil Lesh was in Asheville? He dropped
No.
in.
No, huh?
3 nights ago. He dropped into the Gray Eagle and sat in with a band. And
No
I
shit.
haven't had a chance to like Google the band, but for like Phil Lesh shows up, and you're like. So
Yeah.
I was in love with Bob Weir. Like Bob Weir was like my childhood crush. Besides
Okay.
Dale Murphy, who played for the Braves, like
Yep.
he was also my childhood crush.
You like the brunettes.
Yeah. So Bob Weir was my crush growing up, and like my girlfriends all knew about it, and they were just like, "This is really weird. This is like this old man." Like, and I'm like, "He's hot. Like, I really like him." You know, watched the documentaries on him. So about 4 or 5 years ago, one of my girlfriends called me up that I grew up with from junior high, and she was like, "Hey, I want you to come to this birthday party with me." She's like, "Oh, my friend Leilani's going to be there. You remember me telling you about her? You know, she's the NASCAR girl. She drives for NASCAR." And because I worked with NASCAR, I didn't really put it together.
Right.
So the girl that I'm talking to, finally we're up at Old Mac. And she's like, "Hey, I've been wanting you guys to meet." She's like, "This is Jenna. She's such a big Deadhead." She's like, "This is Leilani. This is Bob Weir's sister-in-law." What?
Yeah, I knew where you were going with that and didn't want to steal your thunder.
I'm like, wait, I thought you wanted me to introduce us because of NASCAR and
Right.
like, you know, doing stuff with NASCAR for years and stuff. And so I had been sitting and talking with her husband and her for like a long time. And this is when she was she was retiring that year, and she drove the vegan car. She's super like activist. She's a Tesla sponsor now. And we just coolest girl. And so I'm like, so is Bob coming to your last race? Because I can
Right.
be in the pits. Like if you want to like give me a miracle. We just sat and talked about like her crazy stories and how Bob and her sister met and their age difference, and like they're still married and still
Yeah.
like
That's a crazy story. with
it's
the two
never
of them.
happened where I've gotten to meet him. I think he came to the race, but it was something like I couldn't be, and like for me not to have been there because I was like, I was scared too. Like I think
say.
I don't like meeting too many. I've met some famous people
about to
before
say-
where I'm like, they sucked, or like I don't want it
Right.
to ruin the image
Like you don't
that
want
I
to
have
ruin
in my head.
Yeah. Especially like a childhood crush. Thing.
Yeah.
It's like the
Hi, I had a
pedestal-
crush on you when I was 11.
Right. It's like the pedestal's already here, and then you meet them, and then realize that they're a person, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, it's like when you see him, it's like seeing a fucking cartoon in real life. Like you're just like, what is
Right.
that?
Well,
Right.
sometimes though, with like a guy like Bob Weir,
Yeah.
who has never had any other life,
Yeah.
but
True.
limelight, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
True.
he's the only thing he's ever done is play a guitar and play music
Yeah.
and be part of the Grateful Dead.
Right.
You know, and not saying that that's a bad thing.
He's got stories though. Like I watched the documentary on him, and like he grew up down the street from what's the guy's name? That's Charles Manson. Like him and Neil Young, and
Right.
they all
Oh.
live like in the same neighborhood, and
Yeah.
like they would all get together and like jam together, and they're like, we didn't know he was going to be a
Yeah.
psychotic murderer.
Yeah, that's
but-
always one of those things where you kind of turn and you be like, I just wonder like what the conversations were like. It was like, did you hear about Charles?
You hear about Charlie, man?
Did you hear about
Y'all
Charlie? He's
wanna hear a crazy
yeah, I know
story?
he was out there on like some, he's out there at some ranch living with a couple people. Yeah, we need to watch the news.
So about that.
Yeah, about that. He's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. So his story, he's adopted. His parents did not have a musical bone. Like his adoptive parents were super straight laced. Like
Right.
his story is crazy. Like he's got a cool story. But yeah, meeting his sister-in-law was like, we need to go to lunch and like we need to talk.
Absolutely.
And so
No, that's awesome.
Last
Yeah.
show I saw before COVID was Bob Weir, the Wolf Brothers in Nashville at Thomas
Nice.
Wolf.
Like when I saw Pearl Jam with my brother, it was one of those things where we would always be like, if they would play like New York, maybe DC, and then like Orlando. Like it was this thing where we're like, if they ever tour anywhere on the East Coast, we'll see them. And
Yeah.
then when they did the Lightning Bolt album, they did Charlotte,
Mm-hmm.
and we were like, we don't care if it's hell or high water, we're going. To
I
see
was
the
at that show. Was it at Spectrum?
Yeah, the one at Spectrum,
Mhm.
yeah.
It was Halloween, right? Or just a couple days before Halloween.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I went to that show.
And it was, I thought it was a great show.
Yeah.
And then they played The Real Me from The Who. They covered
Yeah.
that, and I was just like, I love The Who, so I just like fucking lost it. And but I mean, it was just this weird thing where like for some reason Charlotte was always jumped over. And it wasn't like Charlotte or Raleigh.
Yeah.
Like maybe medium-sized bands would do that, but it would always be like completely skip North Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of
So-
people. Like there's one. I'm a big Chris. God, why can't I just completely lost his name? Who I'm thinking of that I love that he will not play. He won't play Charlotte, but he'll play all the surrounding places. I don't know if and I can't think of who it is right now.
What kind
but
of stuff does he do?
He sings Talladega. What's the guy's name? He's from Caldwell County. He's a country singer.
Let's
Google it.
Let's
Bing
Google it.
Bing that shit.
Bing
look.
it.
Let's look. This is why we need an
You didn't
intern.
kick
He
back
just
from
like,
Microsoft or something? What the hell is Bing?
You don't know what Bing is?
we're gonna.
I know what it is, but what I'm
Are
saying.
you sponsored by Bing? Is that what you're
Well,
doing?
you
You're trying-
guys, a special announcement today. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. You're just trying to like.
Why can't I think of his name?
Oh, Eric Church.
Eric Church.
Eric
Yeah.
Church.
He will not play
The Chris
Charlotte.
threw me off. Really?
Yeah, he's never played Charlotte. He's one guy that like, cause he went to App, like, and I'm like, I want to
Right.
see him.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of people because I feel like I've seen everybody and nobody really blows me away. Now I did hear ZZ Top is coming to play.
I would be down. To
I've seen them before and they're amazing. Their documentary, if you've never
I
watched it,
saw the documentary. It was great.
Their documentary, oh my God. Frank
was
Beard,
really
their
good.
drummer, I
Yeah.
never really paid attention to him. He's the coolest one. Like
Oh yeah.
I love Billy Gibbons, but
Yeah.
that documentary, I heard that they're playing across from the Speedway, but they didn't really advertise this. But if you read this like fine print, they're doing it in like, I think those bubble globes. And I'm like, all the people that are going to go see them are like 70 years old. Like they're going to be like, what the hell is this?
Oh, I know. I had to do the fucking Bubble Glove thing. I had to do a couple shows.
So
that way,
they're
and I'm
doing
I
it
hate
at like I guess it's at the dirt track because I looked at it and I was like, what the hell is this? Like I know every venue in Charlotte.
To be sure, they're not still doing that.
I would
like,
hope
in
that
those
they're
bubbles.
It's like it's pods is what
like
they
the
call
pod.
it.
Yeah, the
pods.
pod people.
When it
Yeah.
sound
to
like
pod
crap
people is
in
just-
there.
I don't know. I mean,
Usually, if there's pods, for some reason, it's not very well thought out.
I know the
That's-
Flaming Lips when COVID first started, they did that.
That
at
was
first,
kind of cool, but
and that was really cool.
But it was
with all
because
the
they gave
balloons
everybody
and-
like their personal
yeah.
thing, which is kind of his thing.
But
that he
these old
did.
people are going to be like, "Why are you putting me in this like oxygen tank? What the hell is this?"
right,
Or maybe they'll love it.
right, yeah.
like-
Maybe they'll just pump some oxygen
These
in
old
there.
people are
It'll
like,
be the
"Oh,
best
we're
they've
getting
ever
pure
felt."
shit here." Back in the day, we used to get the wheat from Nam, and now we're just getting this pure oxygen in this tank.
I was like, I kind of want to go see this show, and I started talking
Yeah.
to a guy. I started talking to Brandon that does shows and stuff. He's like, you don't want to go to that show,
Right.
and I'm like, why? And he's like, it's going to be in pods. I'm like a tent, like a clear plastic like oxygen tent, and he's
That's
like,
kinda
yeah,
weird.
basically.
I don't want to go to that show because I don't want to hear the same song for 3 hours.
Absolutely. I don't know. I go see ZZ Top. I really like how the documentary ended like right at Eliminator. Like
Yeah.
they didn't go
Yeah.
into like,
All
and then
their
we kind
other-
of made some bad records.
Yeah,
in there.
they just
I'm glad they
stopped it.
stopped it
Yeah.
right where it needed to go.
Yeah.
But you're involved in like doing some shows and promotion stuff as well now, right?
Yeah. So Brandon Henson that I did my podcast with last year, which has kind of been put on hold.
Okay.
He's with a company called Stage Left Entertainment, and so he brought me on basically because he needed help with all the rollovers from all the canceled concerts. These people are like, I bought tickets to this concert. I need to roll them over to this year. And okay, this person's not the headliner anymore, and this person. So I'm in there kind of like helping him and his business partner, Nick, field those questions. And we're promoting new shows. So our first one that we have coming up, it's of course in Florida because, Florida's been wide open forever. And North Carolina is just kind of...
It's getting there.
We have one show that we'll be doing in September is Hops and Hogs, which I promoted it last year. It was great. It was Candlebox was like the headliner and like Lifehouse and like 90s bands and but it was great because at the time when we were doing the podcast, we had just met this band Cascasun. I don't know if you know those guys.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah,
they're great. So apparently
really
they were telling me this story and they were like, one night we happened to be out and we were talking to like one of the production guys and he was like, we need a opening act. Like, so they put him on the bill like with these, these bands are all great. Everybody knows them. It was going to be a great festival. Well, they got to open it. So we were like, we're definitely coming to see you guys. So we went out and saw them and they did awesome. Like, I think they'd only been together like 8 months maybe. And they have like a 4-track little CD and I love it. Like it's they're great. I really like them.
I've seen them and I'm really going to feel really stupid. I really hope that we didn't do a show at Petra's with them.
I think
we did. We totally did a show.
I met
with
them right around the same time that I met you.
Like me included?
I don't know. No. Or maybe I did like a solo thing or opened up or I can't remember where it would have been.
The first time that Cascasun.
Yeah. Jay, you're cut off.
No more White Claws.
No more White Claw for you.
See, that shit's catchy,
See, it's
man.
gonna catch on. Now I'm going to do that the whole time.
We're all going to be at the bar. Let me ask a dumb question. What date in September is it?
Let me tell you. So the Hops and Hogs Festival is September. Oh, are you talking about last year?
Or no, the one that's coming up.
The one that's coming up is Hops and Hogs at September 4th and 5th.
Okay, thank God. Okay.
So, but the headliner for that is 311.
We're planning one for the 25th.
Oh, okay. The headliner for that one's 311. So I'm really excited about that. So,
that'll be awesome.
Yeah. So tickets are like $45. It's gonna be over at the Old Coliseum, the Expo on Independence. So I'm super pumped.
That would be a great venue for that.
But our first one that we have coming up, it's going to be in Orlando. I'm going down for that. It's the Dirty Heads weekend. So we've got the guys from Of Good Nature who I love those guys. We've had them on the podcast.
Oh, they're great.
We've got Little Stranger who just played Lenny Boy. Are y'all familiar with them?
I'm familiar with them because when I was looking at your Instagram.
Yeah, they're fun. They're just so fun. They just played Lenny Boy on the dock, the loading dock out there. Thing. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we're excited to get on and see them.
Yeah.
So then they've got some other ones that Brandon's like, oh, you're coming. Like he's got like Warlando, which the headliner's Judas Priest. Like,
oh, done.
Done. I'm there, Brandon. I will be in the mosh pit.
Yeah, I guess if you need me to come.
Yeah, they're doing Rebel Rock. They have Machine Gun Kelly, Limp Bizkit, Wu-Tang. When I asked, I was like, so who's coming from Wu-Tang? And they were like, whoever's alive. I was like, all right, well, okay, well, I'll be there. So that's going to be some interesting shows. So I like all kinds of music. Brandon will drag me out. He likes more of the metal stuff. And so he's like, you need to broaden your palette, Jenna, get out there. And I'm like, because I've kind of gotten into this like mid, like country, not rockabilly, but I love like that
Americana kind of.
Yeah, I'm really into I was really into Turnpike Troubadours for a long time, and then I got into the Cody Jinks and the Chris Stapletons and like Margot Price, Jason Isbell, that kind of stuff.
I love Margot.
So, and I've kind of been stuck into that. And he's like, snooze fest, I'm gonna fall asleep, and I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to like.
You just don't listen to the lyrics, man.
I know. I'm like, God, these stories are so good. Like, I'm a huge like Cody Jinks fan. Like, I've just been stalking him lately. Because
I haven't really listened to Cody Jinks. I've heard of.
I feel like I played one of his songs with Randy.
Yeah.
I need to take the dive.
I know I played one of his songs with Randy, but I could not tell you what it is.
Yeah, he's great. I just love him. Like he did a podcast during COVID, and I watched him. He did live every night in his little studio, and the closest he ever came to Charlotte was Asheville. And I literally was like looking at the tickets, and like tickets were like $150 for lower level. And so I found one ticket on an aisle right here, and then like 10 rows back, I found another aisle ticket, and they were for single individual tickets. They were were only $70. So I bought 2 individual tickets and brought a friend with me. And when like a person saw that like we were running, like talking back and forth and share, buying
they're
drinks,
like, "Oh, do you
they're
wanna
like, here,
switch?"
y'all just switch and take our seats. So then
Right.
we were like, 12th row, which was awesome. So
Yeah.
went and saw him. So there's not a lot of bands that I'll travel for, but a lot of those musicians that I think are really good that are like, they haven't, I don't want to say made it, but like, are huge. They play those smaller, Gray Eagle, smaller Asheville
Right.
like places.
Well, that's
so.
kind of like the perfect level to be at,
Yeah.
right? Of like,
Yeah.
if you can be big enough to do whatever show you want to do, have your fans that care,
Yeah.
and be able to be close and interact
Yeah.
with them, without it. Like, I think that's such a good level to be
Yeah,
at.
it reminds me of like the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville, where so many
Right.
people are discovered. Like, I just feel
Right.
like Asheville has so much. Like, I just love Asheville. I'm a big fan of it.
Oh yeah, I do too. I really like it. I think the one thing that's with Charlotte that's holding it back from that is just the perception of we're so not used to what we have now.
Right,
We're
and it's
so not
happened
used to it.
so fast. Like,
Yes.
it's so fast. Like, yeah, it's
Well,
it's
we also don't have any venues that really support smaller
Correct.
draw
Correct.
original
there's,
band.
There's
Yeah.
a few, but there's not
Yeah.
as many
it's
scattered around.
The
Like-
local music scene for original artists in Charlotte is
Very
Yeah.
tough.
Is very
Yeah.
difficult.
Very, very tough.
like, where's your favorite place? I know you play over at what's the place you played last night? The Beacon.
So I've been playing at Oh My Soul a lot.
I love that spot.
It's a great spot.
It's great.
I really love it. It's and it works for me because also too those guys are like really cool because it was when I first got in there I was kind of like this is a great place, and they were asking me questions. They're like, "Oh, do you do this full time?" I was like, "Yeah, this is now my full time gig starting this year." And they're like, "What do you?" And they're like, "Oh, what do you have?"
Feed me.
Yeah, I was like, "What?" And they're like, "What do you have available?" I was like, "All of it."
Yeah.
like all of it. And they're like, "Great." So for like 3 months straight, they were like, "Sure, like take 3 or 4 dates a
Yeah.
month," which
Yeah.
was a massive help. So, I love going up there. But for me, I like playing there. It's really tough because this past year has been such I love doing stuff with the band. Like right before, like our last band show, we did like a big Mardi Gras show at like Rooftop, and it was like 8-piece band. We had the horn section, we had this whole stuff worked out, and it was great. And I love doing that stuff with the full band. And it's like since we haven't been able to do that, I've found things that I really do enjoy about doing solo shows.
Yeah.
And I'm really starting to try to find new ways to kind of mix it up and change it up a little bit. But, I'm really ready to kind of I would like to see more venues that aren't traditional venues do shows
Yeah.
that are focused on originals. Like
Yeah.
take the chance of going like similar to how a comedy show is set up. You've got to order,
Yeah.
it's 2 drink minimum. You come in, this is going to be ticketed. And, you're not just a guy in a corner, playing in
right.
front of the TV where the game's on and they just score and they're like, "Oh, they must have really liked that song." He's like, "No, Duke just made a goal." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So, like that sort of thing. I think if the venues would like take a chance on like having a cool thing happening
Yeah.
and just being like, no, this Thursday we're gonna shut it down and we're gonna have an original artist, or we're
Yeah.
gonna have 3 or 4.
Well, and that's
know?
kind of like what I'm hoping to do with Stage Left. Like Brandon and I were talking when I came over here, and I was telling him, I was like, "Yeah, do you know this guy?" And he's like, "No, I'm surprised I don't know him." And I'm like, so when situations come up when we're doing festivals and bands back out, stuff comes up. We just found out we had Aaron Lewis on the bill from Stained. He was going
Yeah.
to play, and then
Seen him
Stained's
live 2 or 3
apparently going
times.
back on tour, so he backed out. But it's like it's good to have like local bands because I'm
Yes.
all about supporting local. So I'm like, hey, I know this band, throw them in there. They'll draw a local crowd.
Well, see, and that's something that me and Jay have talked about a lot. That is a problem in town is when you're with bigger names that come in and certain promoters that I will not name.
Yeah, there's just a bad habit.
yeah.
Of like we're not gonna get we have somebody coming in off the road, we're gonna get somebody else coming in off the road. We'll see if we'll get them to do that to open. We're
See,
not
and
gonna
I
get a
hate
local
that.
band.
I'm like, bring in the local guy.
Yes.
It's completely, you're going to have somebody where you're supporting a local artist, and then you're going to have maybe not as much of a crowd from that person, but then you're going to have this big person, and they're going to be like, oh God, who was that guy? He was awesome.
Right.
Who was the opener? Like, I've been to shows
Right.
before where I'm like, I like the opener better than I like
Absolutely.
the headliner. Like,
and then
I'm
if
like,
you figure out that's a local
Yeah.
person,
And-
I think it behooves the venue because if you just help grow that person with
Right.
this audience in 3 months, that person could probably pack that venue.
Oh yeah.
Just
yeah.
by being able to open that way. And if they hit the promo right, they can then pack out that venue for you.
Yeah. And that's why I try and go, like, people are like, oh, she's a party girl. She's out all the time. You know, she works for a vodka company. And I'm like, well, I work for a vodka company, and that's why I'm out, because I like to tell these guys that are producers for festivals, hey, I know this awesome band. You need to check these guys out. Come to the show with me. I promise you won't be disappointed.
Oh, it's still
so it's like
job.
I'm their like little like minion that's out like checking out bands and stuff, but like it's not my official title, but it's like we'll be talking and they'll be like when we're sitting in the office, we're listening to music, and every day we pick, and all three of us are so different, and so it's like, hey, what do you want to listen to today? And we'll be like, you know, whatever. And so, you know, Brandon will be sitting there and will be like, who is this? And I'm like, oh, this is a local band that I've been, you know, listening to. So
Not Judas Priest.
what do you have against Judas Priest? I can't believe they're touring. I'm like,
That's in
I
a
know.
major key.
Where in Charlotte for you do you really enjoy going and seeing? Like right now, as things are, because this is going to come out on Wednesday actually. So right now, with things still kind of being the way they are now, some venues are starting to come back and all that kind of stuff. But where have you found like something that's exciting to you coming up?
So I mean, I've been going to all these bands. So during COVID, Lenny Boy they were the only place that I could go and see live music, because they did it in the parking lot on their loading dock. So that was the only place. Like I couldn't go to the Visual Light. I couldn't go to Evening Muse. I couldn't go to Neighborhood Theater. You mentioned Swim in the Wild. I know Steven and those guys, they were going live, and I was watching that. And but yeah, I like to go. Lenny Boy had been like super instrumental for me. Like when I look back at COVID, like that's
it was really good with
the Indie Fest. And I think they're still doing it, and they're doing comedy shows, and people kind of like being outside. So going there. I'm always like looking, just like now I have people, they're like, hey, I have a show, will you come see us play?
Right.
So and I will, you know, it's just kind of like if I can, I will. And there's some really talented people out there. And now that I'm getting like so much older, it's like these 20-year-olds that are coming along, and I feel like that 90s sound is kind of coming back.
Super weird how like that's very trendy now.
Yeah, I had a 21-year-old tell me the other day, like, oh my God, you lived in the 90s? And I'm like, yeah. Like, she's like asking me about like Nirvana and like Soundgarden and stuff like that. Like we started talking about Lollapalooza, and I was just like, is this really a thing? Like, really?
It's coming back in a way.
I mean, to kind of snap back around real quick, I mean, you were coming of age in the early 90s, and 20 years back were the 70s. And that seemed to be what was popular
that's
for
true.
you at the time, right?
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
So, you know, it's all cyclic, and it all comes around because it's what their parents listened to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know?
I love to go. There's just so many like little places where I'll go and hear a band. I mean, during COVID, the guy that I'm dating, I'm like, let's go down to, we've got a place down at the beach. And I was like, let's go down. Let's see if the Bowery's open. And he's like,
oh, going down the Bowery.
So we went during the like middle of COVID. We went down there, and all of Myrtle Beach is shut down. And so we're like, I looked online to see who was playing. And it was this guy that had worked with like, Montgomery Gentry, I think.
Okay.
So like, you know, so I'm thinking like, okay, this is going to be like 90s country. Let's go in. This guy, so first of all, we walk in, it's packed. Like nobody gives a shit at the Bowery.
No.
Nobody's
South
wearing
Carolina.
masks. I'm like,
especially the Bowery.
yeah.
Right.
So we walk in, you know, and like he had never been in there. So we're like, I love
it's
Alabama.
a staple.
We go in there, this guy, and I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he just literally was sitting up on like this little stage in a little chair, and everybody was just so excited. Like it was normal for, you know, like a normal bar, but it was everything outside. You could walk outside, and it was like you could see tumbleweed roll down the street. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's awesome. And he plays there like once a month, and just like he was covering like Tyler Childers, and he was playing like some mainstream stuff, and you know, some of his stuff. But like I just like places like that where you like stumble on it. Like I'm not scared to go into any shithole bar in the world. Like those were where the good bands are, or the good musicians are.
Yeah, I want to know. I want to know where the musicians go and take time off. You know what I mean? Like that's where, you know.
Like where do you hang out? Like Thirsty Beaver. Like
Beaver. I'm very excited. I just had a friend text me. He does this every Tuesday night. It's back in the day, this was like such an instigative thing he would do. He'd be like, you know what night it is? Because Tuesday night is a Smokey Joe's jam.
Yeah.
And he would be like, you know what night it is? I'm like, man, I got work to do. I got to do this stuff. And he's like, all right, man, I'll see you later. I'm like, no, I'm not coming. And then sure enough, about 11 o'clock, I like pop in. I'm like, well, all right, what's going on? Who's playing? Can I get a spot? What's going on? But I love the Smokey Joe's jam.
Was it Tipsy Burrow I saw you at a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, we saw Jason Moss and the Hosses. I just booked them for a show. I'm super excited.
Yeah, I love them. I love the the first time I went to Loose Lug Nuts, or first time I went in and met them and like started chatting and stuff, they like had vinyl on hand. They like gave me a record. I'm like, when's the last time you've walked into a bar? Like maybe, I don't know, he was like, full like record. I was like, oh my god, this is so nice. And now I go see them all the time. But yeah like great. Places like that.
I love that. I love that too, because what's interesting is there's like, I play in so many bar/restaurants at times, but being at a place like that, people are so much more receptive and appreciative of the music versus just kind of being like, so, kind of in a corner somewhere. But Tipsy Burrow is awesome.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
That was my first time
I like
there.
Smokey Joe's too. Any of those little hole-in-the-wall places, the back patio over at Jack Beagle's. You can find some good musicians there.
Yeah. The cool thing about a stage like that is like, it's a challenge. I'm like, I gotta bring people. And I love being on a stage. If there's a crowd of people that don't know who I am, I'm like, yes. Yeah. They're here. Yeah. This is a challenge. How do we make this? Yeah. How do we
I love stuff
win
like
them over?
that. Yeah, so those are the little places that I'm working on. I'm working with a new vodka company this year. I'm working with it's called Cathead Vodka. They are out of Jackson, Mississippi. And every single bottle says support live music. They do a thing called Cathead Jam. We're working on that. They're getting ready to come out with a new seltzer. So that's going to be my new vodka that I'm going to try and start bringing into the venues and doing that. And they're not local, but I like their like whole vibe.
Yeah, so, especially with the music stuff.
Yeah.
Well, let me know whenever you get some.
Yeah, I'm going to be getting some in. I'm working with them, and then I'm working with a local CBD company that they are coming out with everything. So
I'm going to have to talk to you about that, because that's
CBD's big. I mean, it's so big right now. I mean, have you done the D8 gummies yet?
We were actually. You want to know a funny story today?
Do tell.
Well. Let's talk about that off mic. Let's talk about that off mic. All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
This
was
thanks
awesome.
For
having me.
Anytime you want to come back or anything like this, it'd be great.
Yeah. I've got stories for days.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.